How's it going, YouTube? Reed here, back with another video. Today's video is going to be a fully comprehensive grenade guide covering all of the explosive hand grenades in Escape from Tarkov. This video is going to be broken up into two main parts. The first part is going to be focusing on a side-by-side comparison of all the grenades, as well as a detailed breakdown of each of their statistics, those being cost, fuse delay time, effective radius, fragmentation count, and then last but not least, strength and weight. Then, using these metrics, I'm going to decide, in my opinion, what is the greatest grenade in the game for the money. In the second part of this video, I'm going to be hopping into an offline factory raid to show some of the newer players 3 different types of grenade throws, or 3 different scenarios in which you can effectively use the hand grenades. I'm hoping by the end of this video, everybody has a little bit of a better understanding of what each grenade can be used for based off of its specific metrics. So without any further ado, let's hop into the comparison of all 5 hand grenades. Alright, so here we are back with my elementary school roots and a good old paint graph that I drew by hand. I figured my thoughts and ideas flow better when I'm working with a stylus and not an Excel spreadsheet. So anyways, starting on the left and working our way to the right, we have the F1 hand grenade, the M67, the RGD5, the VOG-17, and the VOG-25. The VOG hand grenades are the new ones that they recently implemented, so if you're here regarding their information or wanting to learn more about them, you definitely will with this video. We're going to go row by row through the different characteristics shown on the left side of the chart. The first 3 are going to be pretty quick since they're very straightforward statistics, though we're going to have a little bit more discussion regarding the last 2, fragmentation count and strength and weight, as those require a little bit more of an explanation. Now let's go ahead and populate the first row of the chart, which is the cost of each grenade. I've based these costs off averages of not only the flea market, but also the vendor prices if the grenade is sold at the vendor. And of course, these are ruble values. As always, costs are subject to change, so these are rough estimates, and who knows what the costs of the items are going to be tomorrow, let alone a month from now, so it's hard to gauge, but it might give you guys a rough idea of what each of these nades is going to cost you. Alright, so now let's populate this chart for the fuse delay time of each nade, or the time it's going to take from you pulling the pin to the grenade actually exploding. Fuse delay time is actually a pretty important metric of the grenades, since different delay times typically make the grenade better at different things. Something like the VOG-25 has a delay time of only 2 seconds. So these grenades are going to be much better for breaching rooms, as the player inside the room is going to have much less time to react to that grenade coming in. It's going to go off nearly instantaneously. The M67, on the other hand, is a really great grenade when you want to chuck and lob that grenade a far, far distance, because it's not going to explode right away. If you're on Customs Hill and you spot the scav boss and his cronies down by the gas station, you're able to lob that grenade a far distance, have it hit the ground, and still roll some before it's actually going to go off. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the effective radius or range of the grenades. The radii that the Tarkov wiki has provided, which is what I've populated this chart with, they have large ranges themselves. The range of the grenades have large ranges. For example, the F1 grenade has a range of 3 to 8 meters. I don't really know why there's such a discrepancy between that. I don't think I've ever been 4 or 5 meters away from a grenade and not taken damage from it. It always seems like the range or the radius of these nades is the larger number. So 8 meters for the F1 grenade, 9 meters for the M67. All the ranges for the grenades are very similar, so I wouldn't take this metric into much consideration. From my personal experience, it doesn't matter what grenade the player throws at you. If Tarkov gods want you to die from a grenade, you're gonna die from it. So I wouldn't really put much emphasis on this, but it might give you a better idea of what the grenade could be good for based off of its potential range. Alright, so now we're going to be taking a look at 2 different characteristics of the nades that are a little bit more complicated. The first of which is going to be fragmentation count, or the amount of fragments that the grenade is going to distribute or administer when it explodes. While this number is available when looking at the grenade inspection window in the game, you can also get it from the Tarkov wiki And not only do you actually get the fragmentation count like the game will show, but you also get the type of shrapnel as well. So I've gone ahead and populated the chart. Now the only time that the fragmentation count really means anything for us is if we know how much damage each fragment does, because then we could do a simple math equation multiplying fragmentation count by the damage per fragment and get the total damage that the grenade will deal. Now, as of right now, there's a lot of you saying, well, Reed, we have that number. It's in the game. See? Maximum damage per fragment. While it would be helpful for this number to actually be the amount of damage each fragment is distributing, and while there's still a possibility that that might actually be true, there's a lot of reasons to question what this number actually means and think otherwise. So I've gone ahead and compared all of the grenade inspection windows, as you see on screen now, to their wiki counterparts, or the wiki information pages for each grenade. And I've found that the maximum damage per fragment, as specified in the game, matches exactly with a characteristic on the wiki page called throw strength. Here we see the VOG's number defined as 60 and the F1 grenade specified as 100. When we take it over to the wiki counterparts, we see these same numbers appearing, but for this stat called throw strength. So let's take the game's definition first. Let's say that these numbers are actually the amount of damage that each fragment is distributing. This already doesn't necessarily make sense because the VOG-25 and the F1 hand grenade both have the same type of shrapnel. They do F1 shrapnel damage as highlighted in the lower section of these two images. So why would they be doing different damage per fragment if the fragment type is the same? Now, one of my good Tarkov buddies said, well, Reed, clearly their fragmentation count is different. Maybe they're fragmenting into different size pieces, making the damage per fragment different. But in my argument, the VOG is exploding into less pieces. You'd think those pieces would therefore be bigger and deal more damage. So I really don't know how to make sense of this number if we're basing it off of the game's definition, which, as stated before, was maximum damage per fragment. I then started to question if this number actually had more so to do with how far you could throw the grenade. After all, the M67 has the largest value of 115, and the M67 is known for its ability to literally soar through the sky when you throw it. It definitely travels farther than any other grenade in the game. To test this, I hopped into an offline factory raid. I brought about 5 of every single grenade type. I put my reticle in the same spot, and then I just stood there throwing grenades, trying to gauge the distances that they traveled. Not surprisingly, I didn't really discover anything other than the fact that the M67 travels slightly farther than the others. As shown in those previous images, the VOG-25's value for this stat was 60, while the M67's was 115. If this number had anything to do with how far the grenade actually travels, you think that the M67 would travel roughly twice the distance of the VOG-25, since 60 is just a little more than half of 115. Now, as we all know, throwing grenades ever so slightly increases your strength skill. The only other possible meaning for this statistic is how much value is added to your strength skill when you throw each of these grenades. If this was the case though, the flashbang would also have a throw strength stat in the Tarkov wiki, as throwing flashbangs also ever so slightly increases your strength skill. Unfortunately, the flashbang doesn't even have this stat listed in the wiki, so I'm led to believe that even this interpretation of this number is wrong. I've gone ahead and listed this value simply as strength, as I don't know if it's the strength of the fragments, if it's the strength required to throw it X distance, or if it's the amount of quote-unquote points added to your strength skill. If you actually know what this number means and can properly define it, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I'll be looking out for some opinions or some insight. I would definitely like to see what you guys interpret this number as. Last but not least, I have included the weight of each grenade. The weights of the grenades don't necessarily mean much when going into the raid with them, as you plan on throwing them throughout the raid and getting rid of them in your inventory. But if you do plan on getting out with grenades as loot, this will be really helpful, as something like the VOG 25 has really great value per weight, as it only weighs 0.25 kilos, but it goes for around 30,000 rubles on the market. So that's actually a really important metric when it comes to looting. I've personally learned myself now that, VOG 25s have much more value than, say, an F1 when trying to loot. In terms of using the grenades, though, I really recommend the RGD5 as it's highly available, fairly cheap, and very effective. Alright, so if you were somebody here for just the side-by-side breakdown of the grenades, I hope you learned something. I hope that was somewhat helpful. Now we're going to be taking it into the second part of the video, which is probably a little bit more targeted towards beginners on how we can use the grenades. 3 basic examples or scenarios of when the grenades can be useful and how to use them properly. So the first type of grenade throw is what I like to refer to as the offensive grenade throw. This is where we throw a grenade into the area in which we're heading ahead of time to make sure it's clear that we've either pushed players out of that area or have killed them. Here I head up to the 3rd story of the factory office area, and I throw a grenade ahead of time to push any players out of the hall or kill them, so when I jump and make the peek, it's most likely clear. The next type of grenade throw is what I like to refer to as the breaching grenade throw, where we try to clear out a room with a grenade. In this case, I'm going to use the VOG 25s because they have a really short delay time, as mentioned earlier, so they're going to go off really quick once they get inside the room. We've all been in a scenario where someone's camping the factory office area. In this clip here, I actually have a cheeky throw for getting it onto the right side of the room from the left door. You throw it under this little piece of furniture, it goes off, and then you can push in. That often will be enough to get a guy that's up in that little top right-hand corner camping people that are coming inside. The last type of grenade throw is what I refer to as the defensive grenade throw. This is where we throw a grenade at an incoming enemy to buy us more time to get away or reposition. If I'm holding this angle and I get lit up by a player coming around the corner and he's chasing me, and I run up the stairs, I can throw a grenade ahead of time to where I think he's going to end up as he chases, and then that will either push him back or light him up a little bit, so I can then reposition and make a play on him wherever he might be. I hope this video increased your guys' knowledge of the grenades in Escape from Tarkov. If it did, be sure to leave a like and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Also, be sure to subscribe for future guides that I'll have coming out soon. There'll be a link in the description box to my Discord if you want to join and contact me personally. Otherwise, I should be going live on Twitch again pretty consistently come May when I move into my new apartment. Thank you guys for checking out the video, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.